Hey, welcome back. Central banks just did what no one expected. They bought Bitcoin. The Czech National Bank is the first in the world to move Bitcoin onto its balance sheet. BNY Mellon, managing over $50 trillion, just entered the $1.5 trillion stablecoin market. Singapore Central Bank, tokenizing government bills. So the question is, are you positioned before the rest of the world catches on? So this is a very, very important and pivotal first breakthrough into the central bank arena, where we've seen the Czech central bank now buying Bitcoin, which is the first in the world. So it says this first central bank officially adds now Bitcoin into its reserves, marking Bitcoin's entry into sovereign balance sheets outside the US and El Salvador model. It reinforces Bitcoin as a macro collateral asset in the emerging tokenized reserve system. So this is monumental because it signifies that major institutional sovereign adoption, not retail speculation, has entered into the mainstream. Irreversible legitimacy shift. So very, very positive all round. The next article is around BNY Mellon has launched a reserve fund product aimed at stablecoin issuers, Circle, Paxos, etc. It aims to institutionalize backing transparency and compliance, positioning BNY Mellon as the de facto custody layer for tokenized money markets. And this is important because it effectively acts as a direct bridge between TradeFi and RWA token issuance. It shows that global banks are converging on stablecoins as the new settlement layer. Now, I have actually explained this earlier on in other videos and episodes where we are going to be seeing a competition now between the traditional crypto exchanges, where they historically have managed the selling and buying of crypto assets. Now we are starting to see global banks have entered into the scene and offering a much more viable, in my view, solution other than what crypto exchanges do. It's to capitalize its security infrastructure. We know that the banks have one of the strongest security systems. I've explained the dichotomy between Bitcoin collateral as a base layer, because these are now included and accepted by banks, and then the custody settlement layer on top of the Bitcoin collateral layer, where it's going to be most concerned about tokenizing and issuing these RWA coin projects, including the issuance of stablecoins. So this is monumental, and this is a trend that we're going to be seeing in the weeks, months, and years ahead as more global banks are starting to follow suit with what BNY Mellon has just done. So the next article is around Singapore's MAS to pilot tokenized bills. So the Monetary Authority of Singapore testing tokenized short-term government bills under new stablecoin legislation. It's built with HSBC, MarketNode and JP Morgan linked technology. It creates a precedent for central bank regulated RWA issuance in Asia. And this is fitting because it's like giving a regulatory green light for tokenized sovereign debt. It's high trust jurisdiction, replicable by the G7 market. So another inspiring and should certainly be taken as that bullish in sentiment. The next one, outside the finance, so outside DeFi, is another interesting use case, and it makes all the sense in the world. It says that Stellar blockchain powers Turbo Energy's clean energy financing. So it's an interesting article because it's a Spanish energy firm called Turbo Energy is now issuing tokenized solar yield assets on Stellar, which is its own blockchain. It brings ESG compliant real-world energy generation now into blockchain capital markets, and it's supported by the EU Green Financing Framework. So this is very, very fitting because it expands RWAs beyond treasuries, beyond DeFi, into real-world energy infrastructure. So I'll be very keen to see how this will actually pan out and see potentially other competing firms in the renewable energy space. So this is hardly a surprise to see the branching out of these RWA use cases into other areas. Right, moving on to another article. It says that Tether and KraneShares have launched tokenized ETFs via Bitfinex securities. The partnership creates a pathway for regulated ETF tokenization on-chain. It extends Tether's reach from stablecoins to full asset-backed instruments, uses Bitfinex securities regulated infrastructure. So this is very interesting because we all know that Tether is the world's largest stablecoin private issuer, particularly pegged to the US dollar on the rail system. So it expands Tether's dominance as merely seen as a cash-backed asset to broader tokenized securities. So this is truly becoming industrial scale and no longer experimental. So it's very good news to see that we are seeing the competition now is being opened up to other areas, to other players. So this is all very positive. The next one on the list is Mantle and Bybit back to bring US equities on chain. So this partnership tokenizes and trades US equities in those compliant markets. It uses backed finance regulatory license and Mantle's modular chain. It's the next $1 trillion asset flow from TradeFi to DeFi. So this is again very interesting. We're starting to see there's a lot of news, there's a lot of momentum and push for bringing RWAs into the mainstream, not just limiting themselves into DeFi and TradeFi, but also into other emerging markets, whether it's renewables and so on. So this is the trend that we're going to be seeing. It's just the real world assets is here to stay, and there's no denying about that. The next one on the list is around XRP Spot ETF launches. So this first spot XRP ETF begins trading, highlighting regulatory confidence. XRP Ledger already powering tokenized fund settlements in LATAM. It brings institutional flow to the RWA enabled chain. It's fitting because we all know that XRP is continuing to anchor institutional settlement rails. Now through the ETF approval, this is ultimately a major validation signal. So we're going to be seeing XRP certainly picking up its prominence in the TradeFi, particularly when it concerns bridging the TradeFi wealth into the blockchain arena, which is what XRP is all about, in addition to stablecoins. So between XRP and stablecoins, they're going to be mostly concerned in bringing the TradeFi wealth into the settlement rails on the blockchain. I have a couple more announcements. So the next one I have on the list is AG Meta launches RWA integration platform. It focuses on emerging AI data infrastructure with tokenized assets. It supports cross-chain interoperability between Ethereum, Solana, and the layer 2s. It's significant because it expands beyond financial assets, combining tokenization and data markets through AI. Again, this is very interesting because I have explained where we've seen this trichotomy narrative playing out between AI, Bitcoin, and real-world assets tokenization. So this is what I would call the digital intelligence economy, fit for the 21st century. So this is very, very inspiring and it's pivotal. And then lastly, this takes to my next article around real estate tokenization is now expanding itself outwards. So there's new platforms in Europe and in Asia now offering fractional ownership via compliant tokens. Institutional real estate funds, such as BlackRock affiliates, are now exploring pilot issuance. This is fitting because tangible assets with large total addressable market fits long-term RWA investment thesis. So if I were to sum up this week, and leaving aside the massive bloodbath that we are seeing at the moment across both financial and crypto markets, there is still a lot of momentum and signs of optimism. RWA revolution isn't coming. It's indeed already happening and it's here to stay. Central banks have entered the scene, buying Bitcoin. Stablecoins are merging with traditional finance, and real assets are being tokenized faster than anyone expected. Now, this is the blueprint for the next $1 trillion wave, and it's happening on chain and in real time. So we need to stay sharp, stay informed, and I'll see you Friday, same desk, new signal. That's all I have for you for today. If you value clarity on Bitcoin, blockchain technology, and real world assets tokenization, stay alert. Subscribe and enable all notifications to stay ahead of the curve. Share this episode with those who need to understand what's coming, friends, family, and colleagues. This channel aims to deliver insight, no noise, and no hype. Subscribe now.